Welcome to Prismology. Right now, I need you to lean in for a second because what you're about to hear might make your stomach drop. There are men watching this who already feel something is off in their relationship, but they can't prove it. They can't explain it. And the worst part, deep down, they feel crazy for even thinking it. Stick with me until the end because the last thing I share today might completely change how you see your relationship. And if you value honest psychology, real relationship insight, and emotional clarity, subscribe and like the video so more men can hear the truth they were never taught. Let's begin. I want you to imagine a moment. You're sitting next to her. Maybe you're in the car, maybe on the couch. She's texting. Her face looks calm, normal, safe. But something inside you feels wrong. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet whisper. Something changed. Men rarely talk about this feeling because society taught you that trusting your gut makes you insecure, controlling, paranoid. But here's the reality most people won't say out loud. Your intuition is not your enemy. It's your early warning system. As a psychologist, I've seen thousands of relationships collapse long before the breakup ever happened. The emotional distance starts first. The subtle shifts, the tiny changes in language, words change before behavior becomes obvious. That's what makes this so important. When a woman begins emotionally investing somewhere else, she doesn't announce it. She doesn't flip a switch. She slowly shifts her emotional energy away from you, and her language quietly follows. This isn't about blaming women. This isn't about creating fear. This is about awareness, because the men who suffer the most are the ones who ignore the signs until the damage is already done. You see, when emotional loyalty shifts, the brain tries to protect itself from guilt, from conflict, from being the bad person. So, instead of honesty, the subconscious starts building distance. And distance has a voice, a soft voice, a polite voice, a harmless sounding voice. But once you learn to hear it, you can never unhear it again. The biggest mistake men make is waiting for dramatic proof, a confession, a clear betrayal, something undeniable. But psychology doesn't work like that. Human beings reveal truth in patterns, in repeated phrases, in emotional tone, in small, consistent changes. And today we're talking about 5 specific words that often start appearing when emotional loyalty shifts away from you. Words that sound normal, words that sound harmless, words that most men ignore until it's too late. I want you to listen carefully, not with fear, not with anger, but with awareness, because awareness gives you power. Power gives you clarity, and clarity protects your future. And the first word we need to talk about is one of the most misunderstood signals in modern relationships, and almost every man misses it. The first word is busy. Now listen carefully because this word is not a red flag by itself. Everyone gets busy. Work gets intense. Life gets chaotic. That's normal. But psychology is never about a single moment. It's about patterns. When a woman begins shifting emotional energy away from a relationship, her availability changes before her behavior becomes obvious. Emotional attention is like a budget. There is only so much of it to spend in a day. When someone new starts receiving emotional investment, something else must lose it. And the safest, most socially acceptable shield is the word busy. At first, it sounds harmless. I'm just really busy lately. Work has been crazy. I've had a lot going on, and you being a good man, you respect that. You don't want to pressure her. You don't want to be needy. You want to be supportive. So you give space. And that's exactly why this shift is so easy to miss, because the change is not in the word itself. It's in the pattern of availability behind the word. Think back to the beginning of your relationship. When someone is emotionally invested in you, they don't magically become less busy. They become more creative with their time. They text during lunch breaks. They call on the drive home. They send small messages just to stay connected. They find ways. When emotional connection is strong, people move mountains for minutes together. But when emotional attention moves elsewhere, minutes suddenly become expensive. Replies get slower. Plans become harder to make. Conversations feel shorter. Energy feels lower. And the word busy becomes the emotional buffer that explains the distance without confronting the truth. Here's what many men don't realize. Emotional withdrawal rarely feels dramatic from the inside. It feels logical, justified, even innocent. Her brain tells her, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I need space. And she may truly believe that. But what she doesn't consciously notice is where her emotional energy is quietly being redirected, because humans don't pull away from connection unless they are moving toward connection somewhere. else, whether that's a person, a fantasy, or a new emotional world. And you start to feel the difference without understanding why. You begin questioning yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I being clingy? Maybe she really is just stressed. So you shrink your needs, you lower your expectations, you silence your intuition, and the distance quietly grows. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. When someone wants emotional closeness, they don't become perfectly unavailable overnight. They gradually become selectively available. And selective availability always hides behind the safest word in modern relationships: busy. But the next word is even more subtle and far more dangerous to ignore. The next word is friend. This word is powerful because it instantly lowers your guard. It sounds safe, harmless, innocent. He's just a friend. We're just friends. You don't need to worry. He's a friend from work. And the moment you hear it, your brain wants to relax because you don't want to be the jealous guy. You don't want to be the insecure partner. You want to trust her. But here's the part many men never learn. Emotional connections rarely introduce themselves as romance in the beginning. They introduce themselves as friendship. Every emotional affair in history started with a conversation that felt safe. It starts with shared jokes, shared frustrations, shared stories about life, shared emotional understanding. And here is the uncomfortable psychological truth. Emotional intimacy is the foundation of romantic attraction. Before attraction grows, emotional familiarity grows. Before desire appears, comfort appears. The human brain bonds through emotional sharing, through being understood, through being listened to. And when emotional sharing increases with someone new, it naturally decreases somewhere else. There is only so much emotional energy to give. That's why the word friend becomes a shield. Not necessarily because she's lying, but because she genuinely sees the connection as innocent, at least in the beginning. No one wakes up and plans emotional betrayal. It happens slowly, quietly, through repeated emotional exchanges that feel harmless in isolation. One conversation, then another, then daily communication, then private jokes, then emotional reliance. And the shift is so gradual. It feels normal from the inside, but from the outside, from your perspective, something feels different. You notice his name appearing more often. You notice stories involving him becoming frequent. You notice comparisons slipping into conversations, and your intuition whispers again. Something changed. The word friend isn't the warning sign. The change in emotional priority is because friendships don't usually require secrecy, emotional defensiveness, or sudden changes in boundaries. Healthy friendships are transparent, comfortable, open. But when emotional lines begin to blur, subtle defensiveness can appear. You ask a simple question, and the response feels sharper than expected. You express discomfort, and the reaction feels stronger than the situation. You sense a wall where openness used to be, and suddenly you feel like the outsider in your own relationship. This is the quiet moment many men begin to feel replaced. Not physically, not officially, but emotionally. An emotional replacement always happens before physical replacement ever becomes possible. The next word reveals when emotional distance turns into emotional independence, and it hits deeper than most men expect. The next word is space. Few words sound more reasonable, more mature, more emotionally intelligent. I just need some space. I need time to think. I want to focus on myself for a bit. And again, this word is not automatically bad. Healthy relationships allow space. Personal growth matters. Independence is important, but remember what we said earlier. Psychology is about patterns and timing. When emotional closeness is strong, space feels safe. It feels temporary. It feels like breathing room inside a secure connection. But when emotional closeness has already started fading, space feels different. It feels colder, longer, undefined, and that difference is everything. When a woman feels emotionally bonded to her partner, space is usually paired with reassurance. I need a little time, but I love you. I'm stressed, but we're okay. I just need to recharge, not disconnect. Reassurance naturally accompanies distance when emotional connection is intact. But when emotional loyalty begins shifting, space often arrives without emotional reassurance attached. It becomes vague, open-ended, emotionally quiet. And that silence is what confuses men the most because you don't know whether to step forward or step back. You don't know whether to fight for the relationship or respect the distance. So you freeze. And freezing creates more distance. Here's what's happening psychologically. When someone begins investing emotionally elsewhere, they start experiencing internal conflict, a quiet tension between their current relationship and the new emotional connection forming in the background. And the brain tries to reduce that tension in the safest way possible by creating distance. Space becomes a buffer zone, a transition area, a way to emotionally step out without officially stepping out. It gives the mind permission to explore new feelings without confronting the consequences of them. And again, this is rarely conscious. It feels logical from the inside, like self-care, like personal growth, like needing clarity. But from your side, the emotional temperature drops. Conversations become less personal. Future plans become less detailed. Affection becomes less natural. You start feeling like you're being gently placed on pause. And nothing hurts more than feeling like your relationship is slowly being moved to the background while you're still fully present. This is where many men start trying harder. More texts, more effort, more emotional investment. But the painful truth is this: chasing distance rarely restores closeness. Because closeness can't be forced, it can only be chosen. And when someone asks for space while simultaneously becoming emotionally unavailable, the relationship enters a quiet, emotional limbo. And the next word often appears right after this stage. A word that feels polite on the surface but signals a major shift underneath. The next word is stress. I'm just really stressed lately. I have so much on my mind. I'm overwhelmed. Again, this word is real. Life is stressful. Work is stressful. Family is stressful. Everyone experiences pressure. But here's what many men quietly notice and don't know. How to explain. She used to run toward you when she felt stressed. Now she runs away from you when she feels stressed. This is one of the most emotionally confusing shifts a man can experience. Because in a healthy emotional bond, your partner becomes your safe place, your relief, your comfort zone. When life gets heavy, you lean closer, not further away. So when someone starts using stress as a reason to withdraw emotionally, the confusion begins. You want to help. You want to support. You want to be patient. But no matter how supportive you become, the distance doesn't shrink. It grows. Here's the psychology behind this shift. When emotional connection exists somewhere else, the brain starts associating relief and emotional comfort with the new connection instead of the old one. It's not always intentional, it's not always conscious, but emotional habits change quietly over time. She may vent to someone else first, share her wins with someone else first, laugh with someone else first, and you slowly move from being the emotional home to being the emotional responsibility. And responsibilities feel heavy when emotional excitement lives somewhere else. So stress becomes the explanation for the emotional gap, not because she's trying to hurt you, but because her mind is trying to protect her from guilt and confrontation. The brain loves explanations that reduce conflict, and I'm stressed is one of the safest explanations in modern relationships. You can't argue with stress, you can't debate stress, you can't disprove stress, so the distance continues without resistance. And the most painful part, you start working harder to become the perfect partner. More understanding, more patient, more accommodating. But emotional distance caused by redirected emotional investment cannot be fixed by increased effort alone, because effort does not create desire. Effort does not create emotional excitement. Effort does not recreate emotional novelty. Those things must come from genuine emotional choice. And when they don't, the relationship begins to feel one-sided in a way that's difficult to put into words, which leads to the final word, the word that often appears when emotional separation is almost complete. Even if the relationship still technically exists, the final word is change. I've changed. Things have changed. I feel different now. This word lands softly, but it carries the heaviest meaning of all. Because when someone says they've changed, they're not talking about habits. They're not talking about routines. They're talking about identity. And identity is the deepest layer of emotional connection. At the beginning of a relationship, two people build a shared emotional world, shared jokes, shared routines, shared dreams about the future. You don't just fall in love with a person. You fall in love with the version of yourself that exists with them. So when the word change enters the conversation, what's really being said is this: the version of me that existed in this relationship is fading. And that realization is heartbreaking because you can feel it before you fully understand it. The laughter isn't the same. The excitement isn't the same. The emotional warmth isn't the same. And no single moment explains why. This is the stage where many men start asking painful questions in silence. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Could I have stopped this? Listen to me carefully. Emotional distance in relationships is rarely caused by one mistake. It's usually the result of emotional drift. Slow, quiet, gradual, and emotional drift can happen when people stop choosing each other every day. Not because one person is bad, not because one person failed, but because attention moved, energy moved, emotional focus moved, and relationships survive on emotional focus. Here is the truth most men were never taught. The goal is not to obsess over words. The goal is to understand emotional patterns and protect your self-respect, because your value does not come from chasing someone who is emotionally walking away. Your value comes from recognizing when emotional reciprocity disappears and choosing yourself with the same energy you once gave the relationship. You deserve mutual effort, mutual excitement, mutual emotional presence. And if something in this video felt familiar, don't panic. Don't react with anger. React with awareness and calm strength. Have honest conversations, ask direct questions, listen to actions more than promises, and most importantly, never abandon your self-respect in the process of trying to save a connection, because the strongest relationships are not built on guessing. They are built on honesty, clarity, and mutual emotional choice. If this opened your eyes in any way, subscribe to Prismology and like the video so more men can learn the emotional truths that are rarely spoken out loud. And remember this, the right relationship will never make you feel like you're slowly disappearing.